Know what we be on? First ones to it, everything is FGR. What is good people? You are now listening to another episode of Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth. I am your humble narrator, Danny Foxworth, and once again, we are joined by an extremely special guest. Well, say extremely special would be a gross understatement, but it's my brother right here, man. MC, ghostwriter, entrepreneur, all that good stuff, man. Bed-Stuy in the building. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him,
Yeah.
you love him. The one and only Skyzoo is in the building. Sky, what's good, man?
Yeah, peace. What's up, man? What's going on?
Man, all good over here, man. Glad you could be on.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you having me. It's good to be in the building with literal family. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
good to be in the building with family and all that. We're gonna represent all that,
yes, sir. So but let's start from the very beginning. So, what was Bed-Stuy like for a young scholar growing up?
Oh man, it was dope. When you listen to my music, there's a lot of metaphors, a lot of comparisons and going back to a lot of Spike Lee movies. And the reason why is because growing up, when I would watch Spike Lee movies with my pops, it was my neighborhood on the screen. You know what I mean? So it's like when you look at Do the Right Thing, when you look at Crooklyn, all of those types of joints, that was my neighborhood. Even little parts of Mo Better Blues and, little parts of Clockers. That was my neighborhood. Definitely Do the Right Thing more than anything. That was my neighborhood. So it felt like that. So it was that, right? So you may look at some of that stuff and be like, man, that was active. There was a lot going on. It was wild. But when you in it, you don't really know it, and the family vibe is there. It's very community driven. It's very, family driven. And your neighbors are your peoples are your neighbors. And the old lady up the block could tell you what to do as if she was your aunt or your grandma's or your mom's and nobody batted an eye. It was that era. It's different now, but it was that era. It was block parties, running up and down the block to the store, getting a hero for $3 and splitting it with your homie, and tell him cut a slice of pizza in three ways so you could split it, and 50 Cent tropical fantasies, and just all that, man, and staying outside all day, having to be dragged back in the house. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like, so it was that, man. It really was a Spike Lee movie in real life. For you had your ups, you had your downs, you had your indifference in between, but it was the greatest, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I talk about it ad nauseum in my music because it's very near and dear to my heart.
word. So, how did Longridge come into play?
Oh man, that's the bloodline, man. I love seeing you with the shirt. I know you got that from my peoples at Made Ink
Yes,
too. So
sir.
shout to them. That's my peoples out there. And yeah, that's my bloodline. So me being born and raised in Brooklyn, every summer I had to come to South Carolina. As you know, on a personal level, I had to come to South Carolina for the summer. And I would stay with my grandmoms, who's no longer here, but that was my heart and still is. And I would stay at my grandma's crib in Longridge. The whole Long Ridge is my family. The whole Long Ridge is my cousins and aunts and uncles and all that. You know what I mean? So I rep Long Ridge, just as much as I rep Brooklyn. I'm not from there. I didn't grow up there, but in the summers I grew up there. You know what I mean? So I tell people all the time, as much as I know the city life, I know a cornfield. I know dealing with hogs and chickens. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like I know all that. I know how to cut grass. You know what I mean? Heads and know how to cut grass with a lawnmower. I know how to use a push lawnmower, hold a clamp down, pull a crank cord. Like I know all
yeah.
that. Because I had to spend two months down there every summer. So that's my heart down there. Everybody in Long Ridge is related to me. Everybody.
So, what was your biggest adjustment from Bed-Stuy to Longridge?
Oh, it's night and day. Night and day. You in the buildings, you in the elevator, you up and down the stairs, you in the lobby, you at the corner store, and then you come to Long Ridge, and after a certain time, it's quiet, it's peaceful, it's you can hear the crickets overnight or in the morning, and every morning at 5:30 you heard the
Yep.
roosters, and like every morning, so it was like a cartoon. It was like this really happens in real life. You know what I mean? Like it was like a cartoon. You can clock it 5:30, 5:31 on the dot. You could clock it, man. So it was cool, man, being the city boy coming down south with all his cousins. My accent different from everybody else's, and the way I'm dressing is different from everybody else's. And then we talking about an era where there was no internet, there was no none of that. So I'm literally bringing videotapes of Rap City, MTV Jams, or Yo MTV Raps, and all that. Bringing videotapes to my grandmom's house to watch them over the summer, and then all my cousins is just passing the tape around and asking to borrow the tape because again, if you didn't have cable, which a lot of it wasn't like nowadays, everybody got cable. It wasn't like that. So, 50% of the world had cable. The other half had antennas, and it was the norm. So I'm bringing a videotape of 2 hours worth of videos, and we just watching that on repeat, like the Menace to Society tape, like the stick up tape. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like we just watching it on repeat, like the stick up tape with Kane and them. So it was dope. You had all that, and you had me bringing Clue tapes and Ron G tapes and all that stuff, and doo-wop tapes to my grandma's house and passing them around to my cousins and sitting outside. It was amazing, man. It was great times. I love having that hybrid lifestyle. I'm a city boy. I'm New York all day through and through. I couldn't hide it if you paid me to. But drop me off in the country, I'll be all right. I'm super good. I'm comfortable, and I love
Right
that.
on, right on. It's got the best of both worlds, man. I love it.
Absolutely. Ate good, all
Oh
that.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, matter of fact, speaking of which, what was your favorite food that your grandma used to cook?
Turkey neck, without a
Oh
doubt.
man,
Turkey neck, man. Turkey neck on white rice, without a
talk
doubt. You
about
know what
it.
I mean? Like,
Yes.
absolutely. Absolutely. Little hot sauce, boom, good to go. And she would make smothered chicken with gravy and all that. And then I would always, as a little kid, man, 10, 11, get a little bowl of gravy and like 4 slices of bread. You know what I
That's all
mean?
you
And
need.
just bang out. You know what I mean? Like sit in front of the TV and bang out, a little bowl of extra gravy and 4 or 5 slices of bread and go hammer, big red Kool-Aid and go to sleep. Yeah.
That
Like
that's the recipe
straight up.
right
So
there.
so all y'all watching, I'm not lying. I'm not lying if I'm talking all this lingo. I'm not lying, man. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
the man knows a thing or 12 about that country living, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then
Yeah.
also in the summer times, we used to pack up in that bus and go to St. James AME Church for the summer feeding
St. James
program.
A&E, baby.
And
Yep.
that's where I
Yep.
first.
That's where my grandmom's is
Yep,
at. That's where we laid my grandma. St. James A&E, man. We used to be there every summer, vacation Bible school and all that. And you know what I mean? Outside playing afterwards and
yep,
going wild and baseball and all, what I mean? Just the whole thing, man. Used to get in the van and pick you up every day from the
yep,
crib and drop you off and all that. And Cooper Store, you know what I mean? Cooper Store before they changed it, all
yep.
that. Yeah. What was Cooper Store and across the street, what was the name of the other one, man? It wasn't Bill's. What was it, man?
Uh,
Cause it ain't there no more.
talking about the convenience store?
Yeah, right across the street. Yep. It was two across the street from each other. One is still there. The Indians and them got it
Yeah,
now, but the other one is abandoned.
yeah, that was Kirby store. It was Buddy store.
Buddies. Yep. It was Buddies.
Yeah,
It was Cooper Store and Buddies.
yep.
Yep. Absolutely.
So I remember
Absolutely.
every Friday we would stop at Buddy store to get snacks.
Yep, yep. Cooper Store and Buddy Store. You went to either one. And I always thought it was crazy. I was like, man, you got a store right across the street from each other. But it's like that in New York. In New
Mm-hmm.
York, you got a corner store here, right across the street, a corner store. On the end of the block, another corner store. So it's the same vibe. But yeah, Cooper Store and Buddy Store.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So getting into the music, I know I've talked about this ad nauseum online, but just how I became familiar with the music. It was the year 2011, and this when the
Mhm.
blog era was heavy. And I remember I was
Yeah.
on nowrite.com one day, and I happened to click on a song called "The Definitive Prayer." And when it
Mm.
came on, he's rapping. I was like, "Oh, that's the David Axelrod joint." And then he just,
Yeah.
as soon as the drum rolls, I'm picturing. I was like, "Boy, this man is in his pocket, like off the rip." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Man." And then I hit up my homie the next day. I'm like, "Yo, are you familiar with a song called "The Definitive Prayer" by this rapper named Skyzoo?" And he just smirked. He goes, "Skyzoo." He was like, "You do know who that is, right?" I was like, "Nah, who is that?" He said, "You remember little Skylar that used to always come down from New York in the summer?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "That's him." Dog, I had that
Yeah.
Weebay GIF face. I was like, "Bro, ain't no damn way." And then he was like, "Yo, come."
That's
He was
real.
like, "Come through. I'm gonna show you the video." And sure as shit, There's there's little
Yeah.
Scholar, big Scholar. And I'm like,
Yep.
man, dude,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I was, I was penning back then. I started rhyming when I was 9. So I'm at my grandmother's house 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm penning in the crib. Like I'm outside with y'all playing basketball, playing baseball. When I would go back in the house at night, I'm penning in my little notebook. I'm rhyming, you know what I mean? Like I
wow.
was rhyming day in, day out back then, you know what I mean? So it all was kind of harvesting, since back then. And yeah, man, here we are.
Man, so do you remember the first rhyme you wrote?
Not at all, but I do know it was me looking out the window from in my mother's apartment on the 18th floor. So we up high, 18 floors up in the jacks, and looking out the window and just seeing the activities. Like in one room, you could look out the window and see the basketball court that was on the left, and then that was in my mother's window. Then in my window, I could look down and just see right outside the side of the building, like the side of the projects, and you could see all the cars parked, lined up. Right across the street was Mega Evers College. And you would just see all the activities. You talking late 80s, early 90s. You just saw all the activity. I started rhyming, what, 91, something like that, 91, 92. So you seeing all that activity outside. You seeing the Jeeps and the Audis and the Saabs outside, head shooting dice, rolling, blah, 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 a little scrapping, whatever, whatever. All the stuff that you hear about in the music and you see in movies like Juice and you see in movies like Straight Out of Brooklyn and all that. You're seeing that in real time. So I'm 9 years old seeing that in real time, and that's what I was talking about. So it was that, and I always freestyled. As a little kid, I always freestyled. So I remember being in school. Now I'm in like the 5th grade, 10 years old, and I used to be able to freestyle like on the playground, at recess, at lunchtime, and all the kids, 10 years old. So all the kids would be like, yo, do that thing, man. They would bring other kids and be, yo, do that thing where you could just rap about anything, man. Do that thing. And I would just do it. I just rap about the teachers and the basketball court and, crack on heads, little jokes and all that in the rhyme, and they would go crazy because they 10 years old, like, yo, who is this kid that could do that? And I'm just getting my crisscross on, you know what I mean, off the top of my head. And they're like, yo, this is crazy. So it started very young, man. And from day one, that's what I'm gonna do. A lot of times, whether you play ball, whether you rhyme, whether you paint, draw, whatever it may be, anything in the arts and the creative space, a lot of times kids, when they start that young, you're into it, but you're not saying this is what I want to do. And even if you say it's what you want to do, you're not, dedicated, balls to the wall, like, yo, I'm not doing nothing else. You're so young, you know what I mean? But for me, day one, I was like, that's what I'm doing. And I played ball and I ran around and whatever, whatever. And I was on the basketball team in high school. And, I wanted to be the next Penny Hardaway and all that. But my job one was being an MC. And if being the next Penny Hardaway happened, so be it. But it didn't mean more than being the next Nas, the next Big, the next Jizza. It didn't mean more than that.
Where so when did you actually record your first song?
Man, I was probably I think I was 15. And nowadays kids can record on their phone. Literally, you could just open your phone, you know, uh garage band or whatever on your iPad or your laptop or literally on your phone on the voice notes. We didn't have none of that. So if I started rhyming in 91, 92, I didn't get in the lab until like 98. You know what I mean? I didn't get in the lab for the first time till forever. And there was only one time. Then I didn't get in the lab again for another year because for studios back then, no matter who you were, like you had to know somebody, you had to be able to afford it, you had to go in there and know what you was doing. You had to have beats. Now, little kids, 15, making beats on their phone, on their iPad. We didn't have none of that. You know what I mean? You couldn't pull beats off YouTube. There was no YouTube. So you either knew somebody who made beats, and who at 15 in 97, 98 knew somebody who made beats? Nobody. So you would get vinyl instrumentals. You go to Fat Beats, you go to Beat Street, you go to Rock and Soul, Hot Wax, whatever, all these different stores in New York, and you get the vinyl. You might get a Jay-Z instrumental, Meth and Red instrumental, DMX instrumental, whatever. And on you get the vinyl single, and on the flip side was the instrumental. So I didn't DJ, but I had mad records in the crib because I just wanted the instrumentals. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I remember in the 10th grade, we had a talent show at my school, and the grand prize was studio time. So one of the teachers in my school had a connect at a studio in Manhattan, and I won the talent show without a doubt, the clean sweep, and I did, we did the talent show and I won. And me and my man, it's funny, he hit me today too. My man Zach, he hit me today. He was DJing for me. He was always DJing for me in high school, and it's wild. He hit me like an hour ago, just checking in. But we did the talent show, won that, and the grand prize was studio time. And I remember how nervous I was going in there the first time. And I remember like whispering on the mic. Your first time, you don't know the nuances, inflections, and how to use your voice and the way you're supposed to use it. So I'm in there, I'm Skyzoo, like, because I'm scared, I'm nervous. I don't know how to go about this. It's not a studio for rappers, because what rap studios were there for 15-year-olds. So, engineers is used to a different type of music, but they walked me through it and all that. And I don't have that tape, but I do remember on the way back, leaving the studio, I remember me and my man Zach just running that tape 1,000 times because it was like, wow, we on a tape. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like we on a tape, like wow, you know what I mean? So, that was the first time, man. And then I didn't touch a studio again for like a year. And the next time I touched a studio, it was a dude in my neighborhood. At this point, my pops had moved to Queens, so I'm back and forth between my pops and my mom's in Queens and Brooklyn, and I'm staying in Queens primarily throughout high school. So now I'm in Queens, and I met this dude who lived a couple blocks away, and everybody back then fancied themselves as a manager. I'm a manager. I got a studio. I got producers. I'm getting artists. I got a label. So you 15, 16, you excited, so I'm hyped. And yeah, this kid, he grabbed me up. He heard me rhyming in the park, heard me rhyming on the corner and all that. And yo, you crazy, money, you crazy. Yo, come to my crib, man. I'm a couple blocks away. So I pulled up and I'm in there just, working out, working out. It's kind of like being in the gym. In the beginning, you're not hitting no shots. Then you start hitting 50% and 75. Now, before you know it, you water from outside, So I'm in the gym every weekend, every Sunday. I'm in my man's studio. He's, maybe 25, 30. I'm 16, writing my little raps, rhyming, rhyming, rhyming. Yo, do it again, blah, blah, blah. Just kind of getting familiar with
Mm-hmm.
it. And that was how it started, man. And it just turns into more and more and more, and to the point where like going in the studio was like breathing. Like, all right, well, da 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 da, done. You know what I mean? I'm 41. I'll be 42 in December. I've been writing rhymes since I was 9.
Wow.
I've been writing rhymes 75% of my life. You know what I mean?
That's
Like you
crazy.
put it in perspective. You know what I mean? 75% of my life I've been writing rhymes. You telling me I'm not one of the best? Like, you know what I mean? Like I've been writing rhymes forever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I've done nothing. I've been writing rhymes longer than I've done anything else in my life.
That's a lot of years in the gym, man.
When you think about it, yeah, you'd be like, damn, yeah, 41, 42, started rhyming at 9. Damn. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not, that's not me being out in the game. No, not at all. But that's literally me picking up a basketball and playing basketball every single day. Then to the point where I'm playing basketball professionally. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Every single day. So come on, man. This is breathing at this point.
So when did you drop your first project?
Oh man, I dropped small mixtapes in New York, 2002, 2003, 4. Like every year, I would have a little mixtape. But I was GQ and Juice, man. I was local. You know what I mean? I was local. But you need those local
Yeah.
moments. Your first moment can't be, you know, at guard 6'1", Madison Square Garden. That can't be your first shot. It can't be your first moment, or you are gonna bomb out. Like your first moment's got to be in the park. Got to be in the AAUs, got all that. So, I was local, and then my first project that had some noise and steam and was able to get around the world was an EP I did in 2006 with Ninth Wonder called Cloud Nine. So it was an EP we did where I literally did the whole thing in 3 days. We did 12 songs in 3 days, writing, recording, everything in a matter of 3 days. Boom, 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 knocked it out. And then I put the record out, and it took off on an underground indie level. It took off as like, yo, who's this new kid? Because the selling point was I still had a regular job. I'm going to work every day. I'm working at Morgan Stanley. I'm going to work. I'm 23 years old, 24 years old, whatever. This no name kid who got to get on the train and go to work every day, but somehow he got 12 beats from Jay-Z's new producer who everybody wants a piece
Mm-hmm.
of. And it's a real project. This isn't something he just found some beats in the record store on vinyl and took some Little Brother instrumentals and rhymed over them. No, this is a real project that, Ninth has stamped and is posting on his MySpace page and has one of the songs in his top 4 songs and all, you know what I mean? All that era. This is a real thing. Who is this kid? Who is this little 23, 24-year-old kid running around Brooklyn? Yo, boom, boom, boom. And he got an album with Ninth One. Who the hell is this kid? And that's how it started. And people wanted to know. People wanted to know whether it was out of love or whether it was out of envy, whatever it was. People just wanted to know, yo, who is this? And when they pressed play, they said, oh, wow. Oh, that's who that is. All right. And then I just ran with it. And I told them when we did the joint, I said, bro, you don't got to do nothing but let people know it's real. Like when people ask you about it, when people talk about it, just let them know it's real. Yo, nah, that's my man. We really did that together. You know what I mean? Like I'll do everything else. I'll get the artwork done. I'll get the mixing, the mastering. I'll get the video shot. I'll get it signed to a distribution company. I'll get a release date. I'll get the press. I'll get the promo. Meanwhile, I had never done any of this stuff before, but I just believed in my instincts and my hustle and my tactics. I was like, I will get all that done. Don't worry about it. I'm not asking you for another favor. You did 12 favors already. You gave me 12 beats. He was like, bet, you got it. And I ran. I said, you give me the ball, I'm going to run. He said, here it is. You know what I mean? And he handed it off. Bang, I was gone. End zone. You know what I mean? And that was that. And then from there, it turned into working with everybody you could think of over the next couple years. I really built my name off of, okay, I got this project. With this project, I'm doing every show possible, every showcase. I'm freestyling on everything. I'm doing every little radio show. I'm killing everything. I'm remixing everything. I'm killing the blogs. I'm on everything. And whatever it takes, let's go.
Yeah, man. And now I want to talk about just a handful of your projects. One of my
Yeah.
favorite projects of yours is an ode to reasonable doubt. So
hmm
how did that come about? Putting that project together.
Yeah, that was man, my man Ill Mind, who's my brother. That's my brother, man. Me and Ill Mind always working, always vibing. And the thing about Ill Mind, he has no problem putting other people on. And he's quick to put on other producers. As amazing of a producer as he is, he's quick to put on other. He's quick to be like, yo, you got to hear this guy. Yo, you got to hear this girl. You got to hear this guy. He's crazy. She's crazy. He's quick with that, and he loves just helping the producer community grow. And he put me on to a couple producers who I still work with. And one of them who I was working with, who I wound up working with at the time for a little bit, was Ant-Man Wonder. And we started doing a joint because what happened. Ilman put me on to him, was playing me some beats. I was like, yo, he's crazy. He was like, yeah, man. And he's a fan of yours, too. He's a big fan of yours. We talked about you. He would, I know he would love to work with you. And we started working, and he had sent me a beat, and it was one of the joints off the project. I can't remember which one, but it was one of the joints that wound up going on that album. And I was like, yo, what? Like, you redid that? Like, you flipped. I think it might have been Bring It On. It was like, yo, you redid that? You flipped that? And he was like, yeah, I actually got a couple of these. I was like, word? And he had sent me like 3 more Reasonable Doubt flips. And I was like, yo, like, this is crazy, yo. Like, what? And he was like, yo, man, I could make these no problem. I could flip these and make it orchestral, no problem. And I was like, yo, let's go. And that's how that happened, man. But because the funny thing about it was the talk for that album had already started, right? It's funny. Elzai had dropped Illmatic, where he redid the Illmatic joint. And I remember a kid had tweeted about it, and who me and him, I know him as a fan, but after he was the reason the whole album came about, so we wound up getting real cool. A kid had tweeted, "Yo, Elzai did Illmatic. We got to get Skyzoo to do Reasonable Doubt. He's the only one that could do it." So I retweeted it and I wrote "haha" like at the end of it, like I thought it was funny. And man, it took off. Everybody was like, yo, this is real. This is real. Yo, you gonna do it? Oh man, you gonna. And I was like, whoa, slow down. Like, no, you know what I mean? I wasn't even thinking about that. So a year passes, and within the year, every time I do an interview, every time I do press, whatever, we're doing something like this. And at the end of it, they ask, so what's up with that Reasonable Doubt remake? And I was like, yo, I'm not doing that. Like, that's not a thing. I'm not doing that. And it became a thing. It became so much talk. I was like, I got to do it. And then when Ilman introduced me to Ant-Man, I took it as the universe. I was like, yo, what's the odds of, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I knew if I did it, I said, okay, if I decided to do this, I can't do it the way L did it with the band because he just did that. And I'm not a biter. I'm from Brooklyn. We don't bite. So I was like, as much as I would love to do that because I love live instrumentation, I love trumpets, I'm a jazz head, I can't do that. You know, he just did that. I'm not gonna do it that way. If I do it just rhyming over the instrumentals, it's kind of corny. Like, you know, like just get all the instrumentals and anybody could do that. So I didn't know what approach I was gonna take. So I kind of left it alone, but it was on the back of my mind. So when we met and he played me like 3 flips, but with an orchestra, I was like, that's the flip. That's how we gonna do it. And we did it. You know, we did 9 joints. Purposely left certain joints off because I felt like the way I wanted to tell the story from my point of view, certain records would not have made
Mm-hmm.
sense. Like Cashmere Thoughts, for instance. That song is a record about he's flexing his money. Yo, I got this, I got that, I'm doing it. It's a very realistic record to who he was at that time. For me, in my approach with the album, I couldn't make a record like that because I wasn't living a life where I had, 300,000 buried in the floor of my crib off of selling 10 keys.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't my life. That wasn't my story. So if you listen to the album, I'm not talking like that on the record. So making a record like Cashmere Thoughts would not have made sense. So certain records, it made sense to leave it off. It was an executive decision. Like I'm not going to redo all 14 records. I'm going to pick the ones that make sense, and it wound up being 9 records, and that's how that came about.
Dope, dope. Music for My Friends, 2015.
Yeah,
Talk about that one.
yeah. Oh man, yeah. It was all my albums are conceptual. Every one, there's a concept, there's a theme, there's a storyline, there's a thread that's like woven all through it. And with that one, I really wanted to talk about this idea of your formative years as a man, especially as a black man in a city, or when you're about 13, 14 years old, right? Because the key with that little range, that 12-month range, is you're old enough to like be interested in girls, your voice is changing, you're getting hair in certain places, your body is changing. You can literally reproduce if you went out there and acted up and did the wrong thing. You literally could reproduce, but you're still writing a Christmas list for your parents. You're still watching cartoons. You're still running home to get the new video game and spending 5 hours on the Sega Genesis on a Saturday with your homies playing NBA Jam or Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter. All of these things are still going on at the same time. There's such a yin and a yang at 13, 14 years old. And whatever happens to you right then can sway you one way or another. And I really wanted to explore that. So the album is me talking about that range, talking about what was going on in my mind at that time, how that shaped me. At that time, it's 95, 96. I've always said 95 is the greatest year ever. So 95, 96, I'm in the middle of the greatest time ever. It was written, Liquid Swords, Hell on Earth, Infamous, Purple Tape, of course. I'm in the middle of all this work. The Magic, Penny Hardaway, the best sneakers ever, the Penny Ones, the fashion, the movies, everything. I'm in the middle of the greatest run ever. And my neighborhood is going this way. There's a dude who made an album about my neighborhood named Biggie, who lives 60 seconds away from me. He lives up the block. He made an album about my neighborhood called Ready to Die. So I'm in the middle of that. Those things happening on that album are really happening in my backyard, for lack of a better term. So I'm in the middle of all these things, but I'm still hyped. My parents put Mortal Kombat and NBA Jam on the bed when me and my brother came home from school. We was like, yo, what the hell? Like, you know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, I'm chasing this girl around my neighborhood that I'm in love with, and we chasing each other around the neighborhood and acting more grown than we should have been acting with one another. So you have all of this dichotomy, man, and I think it's just a fascinating subject, and I wanted to explore it. So that's the long story of Music for My Friends.
Word. And then my favorite project of yours, In Celebration of Us,
Mm-hmm.
2018. Talk about that
Yeah,
project.
it's one of my favorites too. It's up there at the top for my personal favorites, without a doubt.
So what went into the creation process with that album?
Man, I wanted to make the blackest album a rapper could make. And when I say that, I wanted it to be honest. You know, it's one thing to make a black album and just celebrate us and no, you know, no pun intended, but to celebrate us and to really be like, yo, we're the best with it. We are. We absolutely the best. We are the strongest warriors and survivors. But I wanted to explore the reality of ups, downs, lefts, rights, pros, cons, everything that comes with us as black folk. The things that we've gone through, the things that we've been put through, the things that we put ourselves through, the things that we kind of do on our own that aren't the greatest for us. And the fact that even those things of how we may treat one another on our own or treat ourselves all stems from something else that was done to us. You know, I look at like Kenya Barris, anytime he does, you know, like Blackish and Grownish and all that stuff. When he had the Netflix show Black AF, every episode was titled because of slavery. Like every episode, if you look at it, it's such and such because of slavery, such and such, and still because slavery, such and such, and you know this is because of slavery, right? Like that's the name of every single episode, and that resonates, man. And that, I think, yeah, I did the album before that show came out, but the idea is it's that same theory of like even the stuff we've done to ourselves and to one another stems from slavery. It stems from what we went through and how we were treated down in Charleston, down in Virginia, down in all these places where they took us the first time off the White Lion, off the boat, and what was done to us. This whole idea of validation and all that comes from the house and the field. It comes from the separation. It comes from me having probably have been in one area and you have been in another area. You know, they might have said, yo, he could be in the house, he could be outside, or vice versa, or whatever, you know. So like it comes from all of that, you know, and I wanted to make the blackest album I could make, but an honest depiction of it. And I was very inspired by Solange, A Seat at the Table. Beautiful, beautiful album. Deserves every piece of accolade that it got and every award it may or may not have got. Whatever, it deserves it all. And I was very inspired by that. And I remember hearing it. Funny enough, I was down south. I was in South Carolina at my grandmother's crib. For whatever reason, she was still here. For whatever reason, I was down there for me, my wife, all of us. We was in South Carolina, and I remember we was driving around and we played that album. So it's wild that I was down south when I heard that album for the first time. But yeah, we was driving around and I heard it A to Z, and I was so inspired. I wanted to find a studio right then. I was like, yo, I got ideas. I got some ideas, man. And that's how that album came about. And it's funny, when it dropped, the critics and all the reviewers, they said this is the hip hop version of Solange's A Seat at the Table.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, word up. You know what I mean? Because that was the inspiration behind it. So game, point, match, done, set. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like it worked, you know, and that was my goal, to make the hip hop version of that, to make, you know, just to make something that really resonated for us as black folk. And my Wiz was pregnant at the time. So the album, I wanted it to serve as kind of like a guidebook for my son who was on the way. He wasn't born yet. Now, when the album came out, he was born. He was a couple months old at that point. But the entire creation of the album, he was just growing, you know, in the womb, you know. So the whole time I'm writing these records, thinking about him, thinking about his arrival, thinking about what the world is going to be like for him. And it's like, if anything happens to me, God forbid, here's the guidebook. Like, here's the conversations that, you know, Trey and Furious Styles had. Here's the guidebook for you if I'm not here. And even if I am here and you're 22 years old and you're doing your thing and you want to throw on Pop's music, here's the guidebook to get you through it, even if you don't call me that day for advice. Maybe you'll call me after, you know, but here's the book to guide you through whatever. And that was the theory behind it.
Tight. Then 2019, Retropolitan, the joint
Yeah,
project with you and
yeah,
incredible producer Pete Rock. How did that come about?
yeah. Man, you know, when you in the game, um, I compare stuff to sports and I compare stuff to food. Those are kind of like the metaphors that I use for everything, to, you know, break it down. And when you're in the game coming up, when you first get on, it's like when you're a rookie and you at All-Star Weekend, right? You go from these are the guys you looked up to in the crib, posters on the wall emulating their moves, to now you're at All-Star Weekend rubbing shoulders. Now it's, yo, what up, youngin'? What up, shorty? Yeah, yo, okay, I see you. Yeah, congratulations, you here. Blah, 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 blah. And that's kind of what it was with a lot of people, from the Locks to Black Star, Just Blade, and Pete Rock being one of them, And when I got on those ninth years and all that, meeting Pete at events and building and vibing and yo, what up, man? Your work is crazy, man. I've been hearing you. I've been seeing you do your thing. So I say all that to say we kind of was dancing around each other for a while. Yo, what up, money? Yeah, we got to get together. We got to get together. But we never had. He had even sent me a beat or two, and for whatever reason, it didn't go down. It could have been the beat is gone, business, whatever it is. But the time presented itself for us to lock in. And I did that album with Mellow Music Group. So what happened, I was with Mellow and I did, what did we do? Did the Easy Truth in 2016 with Apollo. And then we circled back and was like, yo, let's do some more records. So when we was doing a deal to do another record, Mike at Mellow Music, he was like, yo, man, who do you see doing an album with if it was another producer? And we was throwing around names. And then he said it. He was like, yo, what about Pete? And I was like, absolutely. I just didn't even think about that. Like, I ain't really think about the possibility. He was like, yo, let's see what's up with Pete. And we both reached out to Pete. And I remember Pete hit me back right away. And he was like, yo, man, let's do this album. Let's get ready. And I was like, word up, and that's how that happened. And then I went to New York. I went back to New York for that. And we did the whole thing in person. So we in the lab every day, 4 p.m. to midnight, every day, working, whatever. And we got the album done in 11 days. We did the whole album in 11
What?
days, A to Z. Yeah, whole album. And I write everything on the spot. So this isn't me writing rhymes at the crib and then going to the studio later. No, this is get there at 4 o'clock, pull the phone out, start writing in the booth by 5:30, start laying stuff down, sit down, listen back, right to another beat, whatever. And that's how that happened, man. We did the whole joint in 11 days. Pete was there every session with me, and we locked in, and it was great, man. It's great to have one of them joints to be in that arsenal of Pete's work, especially the work of him with one other MC, the
Yeah.
CLs and the Commons, and all that. Shout out to my man Dizza. We peers in this, all that type of stuff, man. And I've seen Pete do interviews lately, even on this Common run, and they ask him, what's some of your favorite work that you've done, and he always says Retropolitan. He's always, Retropolitan's at the top. You know what I mean? Like he'll name joints and he'll be like Retropolitan without a doubt, right there, top three of my work. Like he always throws that love because he really feels that strongly about the album, and it's a blessing, man. Because I was at the crib looping up Troy and straightening it out, and trying to get the instrumental for Half Man, Half Amazing, or
Soul
Soul
Survivor?
Brother
Yeah.
number one. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, you know what I mean? That was me. I'm trying to find the instrumentals for that first Pete Rock album in '98, in high school for the talent show. And now, boom, we got an album together and we running around and this and this and this. We doing press, we doing videos, we doing interviews together. It's full circle.
Man, thoughts become things.
Absolutely.
And then
Absolutely.
The Mind of a Saint. Talk about
hmm
that one.
Another one of my
Yeah.
favorites. Yeah. Man. So my man Joe from the other guys who did all the beats, shout to Joe, shout to the other guys. He had hit me about doing a whole album. And we didn't know what the album would be about, but we had done a few songs here and there, some Tanya Morgan stuff and stuff like that. And he was like, man, would you be down to do a whole album with us? And I was like, yeah, y'all always had really dope beats. Every time we work, the way y'all work, the way your records are produced, they're fully produced. I'm all the way with it. And I was trying to think of what to do with the album. Excuse me. And, because I was just like, yo, I just dropped All the Brilliant Things. So I don't want to do another just Skyzoo record, just rhyming about Skyzoo stuff. I just did that. I need time to live life and experience stuff and have something to talk about. I'm not just gonna rap just for the sake of rapping. I never did that. So I'm like, man, what am I gonna do on this record? Like conceptually, where do I want to go? At the same time, my man Kerry out of Portland, Oregon, um, he was hitting me for a while and was like, yo, man, my one of my favorite projects of yours is Theo versus JJ. He was like, yo, what if you did something else and it was like, Franklin versus Avon? And I was like, what? I was like, man, that's crazy. I ain't doing that. You know what I mean? So we would always mess with each other. I was like, bro, I'm not doing that. I was like, man, you got one dude in the 80s selling coke. You got another dude in the 2000s selling heroin. They don't even fit in the same world. I was like, I ain't doing that. But we would laugh and joke about it. And he kept hitting me. He was like, yo, man, Avon versus Franklin, Avon versus Franklin. I was like, Kerry, I'm not doing that, bro. But the last time he hit me about it, it resonated a little more. And I said, you know what? It might be something to this. I'm not going to do Avon versus Franklin. But what if I just did something with Franklin? And I'm in the crib and I'm just thinking about it and I fleshed the idea out and I said, yo, what if I rhymed as Franklin for the whole album? What if I did a whole album? I never mentioned Skyzoo. I never mentioned Brooklyn. I never mentioned gentrification or Spike Lee or none of that. I only talk about Franklin, South Central, the early 80s, Coke, Teddy, CIA, Sissy, Rome, Lee. What if I just did that? And I was like, yo, that would be kind of wild. And I was like, I could use this as a vehicle to teach these kids that none of this is what it's cracked up to be, right? Like none of this is what you think it is when it comes to what's going on outside. And because I felt like a lot of times the Coke rap side is celebrated as a big party, right? Like we throwing powder in the air like LeBron, we throwing keys on the yacht like football and go long and catch, like yeah, all right. Heads is getting 45 to life. You know what I mean? Heads is getting, 25 minimum for a key. You know what I mean? For one key. Like, yeah, you sure? Like, So I felt like this could be a way to teach kids and to talk to kids about something and about a world that I know, but not a world where I dribbled the ball in it. I always tell people, right? Like I'm very Rich Paul. Rich Paul knows basketball better than you and I. Rich Paul knows basketball, you know, top notch. But he never dribbled a ball a day in his life. How does he know basketball just as well as LeBron? Well, because he's sitting courtside every single day. He's so close to the game. How can he not know? Even if he never put a jersey on and never tied up his sneakers, how could he not know the game? And it's the same thing with me. Like growing up where I grew up and the way I grew up, how could I not know the game if I was right there, shoulder to shoulder with my friends every day who really was outside dribbling and passing and shooting the ball? Like, how could I not know the game? I sat there every day and watched them in the gym. I know the game. I know plays. I know callers. I know that. I know screens and pick and rolls. And, I know all that, even if I never dribbled the ball. So it's the same thing, but like trying to get that point across from a firsthand point of view, that was the vehicle to do it. And, yeah, I had a blast doing it. The thing about the album, which I always say it separates the boys from the men, two things. One, an album like that is an excuse to do whatever you want on a record, right? Like if you start saying, yo, I'm clapping this, I'm shooting everything moving, and I'm selling all this, nobody can't poke you and be like, yo, what you doing? What you doing? You can say, yo, I'm just playing a character. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So you could get off all of that you want. I didn't want to get all that off, right? Like the first idea I had, once I said I would do the album, the first concept I had for a song was Apologies in Order. First concept I had. So off the rip, I was already going a different place. I was like, yo, the first thing he has to do is apologize to that girl. The first thing Franklin has to do on the record is apologize to that beautiful black girl who was going to a HBCU. That's the first thing he has to do because he ruined her world. So before we get into any of this man boy and clapping and money and I got coke, I got the best work on the street, he needs to apologize to that girl. That was the first concept I had. So that shows you the type of time I was trying to be on when anybody else would have got right to the work. They would have got right to the big coke party, right to the guns in the trunk, right to it. So that's one. It was not taking the bait. Like, don't take the bait of make this the most coked out gangster album ever because the storyline fits that. Because it really doesn't. The storyline is a cautionary tale. What John Singleton wanted to do was say this is something that really happened to our people in our communities all over this country that they like to hide and pretend didn't happen. So it's a realistic depiction of it. And then the second thing was everything I did for the album, it's as much as what I did as well as much as what I didn't do. There were so many things I had to make sure to not do. For instance, I'm a New Yorker, Brooklyn rapper, you know, 90s, 2000s, all that. A break beat is my sweetest dream. You play synthetic substitution, I'll rhyme 100 bars. You know what I mean? So that's my swing. I can't go super New York on the beats because it won't make sense for the story. I also can't go super LA because Skyzoo from Brooklyn rhyming on these lowrider beats and these Battle Cat and DJ Quick beats don't make sense, even though the story is South Central Los Angeles. Also, the story takes place in the 80s, but I can't get a bunch of Rick Rubin Beastie Boys beats because then it'll sound dated and people will enjoy it on the first listen, but after that, they won't want to hear it no
Yeah.
more. It'll be like, I heard it, it was great. It's like I read that book once, it was great. I don't really want to read it again. It's kind of a long book to read. It kind of takes a lot out of you, you know. So I didn't want to do that. So how do we make sure when we produce this album that we're not making it a super LA soundtrack because I'm from New York? We're not making it a super New York soundtrack because it's a LA story. We're also not making it dated because even though it's the 80s, we're selling it in 2023. It's a lot of stuff to not do. It's like you in the kitchen and they said you can't use these ingredients. You know what I mean? Like, what do you do? So what we did was what y'all heard, you know, and I found a very dope balance of old school, new school, New York, LA, very fluid, very hybrid, fluid sound. Lyrically, I'm gonna do what I do, but the sound and the production very fluid and very hybrid where everybody could rock with it. It don't sound like a New Yorker cosplaying as a LA dude. It don't sound like forcing New York sounds onto a LA story and their history. It just was a perfect balance. And who better to do it than Joe, who's from DC, musical city, musical place, and has all that in his DNA. So it just worked out perfect.
I love it. It's like you got a producer who's basically hooping on a neutral at a neutral site.
Exactly. It's like, yo, for as much of the things that I did, there were so many things that I said, I can't do that. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. Or the project is going to bomb. It's going to blow up in my face and it's not going to do what I want it to do. And it worked. Like every box was checked right. And the boxes that I didn't need to check, I didn't check them. And it worked perfectly. And everybody was like, yo, this is phenomenal. This is incredible. I mean, Apple Music, when they did when they uploaded it on the streaming and all that, the write up that they wrote, they said this is this generation's version of American Gangster. Like it's the
Wow.
first thing they said. They
Wow.
said this is this generation's version of American Gangster. You know, so it's all there. You know.
Yeah, man. For selfish reasons, it would have been funny just to hear you be like, "Yo, he got Hort, cuz."
You know what? I almost did that, but for the same reasons I just said, I was like, I can't do that because I didn't want LA to think I was making a
Yeah.
gimmick out of their culture and their slang. But I almost did that. I was like, yo, what if I rhymed the whole album like, pieces of a kilo of stove top? You know what I mean? Like, what if I did the whole thing with the accent? Like, cuz, like, you know what I mean? Because I would play with the accent a little bit and, Mark and all that. And I was like, the last thing I want is for them to feel disrespected,
Yeah.
you know? And even doing that worked because they all came out. I had some Compton hitting me, had some South Central, had some Inglewood, had some Long Beach, DMing me, coming to shows, rags in their pocket, and was like, yo, you did that, bro. You did that. Like, you repped us. Thank you. You repped us hard. You know what I mean? They was like, yo, you good out here. Anytime, you good. You good out here because you got it. You did it right. You embodied who we are. You told the story and you killed it, And that's what I wanted,
Mission accomplished.
Absolutely, without a doubt.
So this next uh, segment I want to get into is basically just getting inside the mind of the writer. So I'm gonna run down my four favorite my four favorite songs from you. First one,
Okay.
of course, the thing that really reeled me in, the definitive prayer.
Yeah.
So what was that writing
Oh
process like with
man.
that?
Oh man. I sat down one session. I had the idea to use that beat. Wayne had chopped it back in '08, so I knew of it from that. But I knew of it from just being a jazz head. And it was just such a dope joint. And a couple heads have used it, of course. But I was like, instead of like chopping it and looping it, what if I just rhymed on the record? Right? So the tempo changes. All these change ups make the beat go faster and slower and more chaotic and then calm down. And what if I just mirror that? You know, so what if I just stick with that? With $40 replicas and the set with it for all of my etceteras, a live or die, pin and ride. Like, what if I just follow it? Because anybody would just loop it up, like Wayne did, and Wayne killed it. But like anybody would just chop it and loop it and I was like, what if I just rhyme on the record? And the joint is 82 bars, which I didn't even realize till after it, which I thought was significant because I was born in 82. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And the joint is 82 bars, so it's just me dumbing out. It's just me. I just wanted to dumb out. That was the moral of it. I was like, I just want a joint where I just dumb out. Once in a while, you got to do that. And I was like, I just want to dumb out. It's like Kyrie going to the Rucker. Once in a while, you got to go to the Rucker and get a nickname. You know what I mean? And act up. So I was like, I just want to dumb out. And what better record than that chaotic, beautiful smorgasbord of jazz and drums and percussion? And what about that? And that was it.
Bro, that might be the name of this episode. Go to the Rucker and get a nickname. I like that.
Yeah, get a nickname. That's it. Yeah.
Another
That's
song.
how you got to
Yeah.
go get a nickname, man.
Another song, Dear Whoever, off the Salvation.
Mm-hmm.
What was the writing process for that one?
Oh man, my brother Illmind did that beat. And what's funny, man, in a couple days is the 15th anniversary of the Salvation. So it's crazy, man. 15
Time
years.
flies.
But crazy. 15 joints, man. But so when I did that, I just had this idea. The whole album of the Salvation is, it's about temptation. Like the whole thing is about temptation and the wrath of it and all this and the pros and the cons and weighing out what's worth this and what's not worth that. And I wanted to have a record where I was talking to my notebook. And that's what the song is about. I'm talking to my notebook. Dear whoever, when I put this together, I felt like da 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 da. The whole thing is me talking to my notebook and kind of having an argument with my notebook, kind of giving up. Like, yo, like I'm dealing with all this temptation. I'm fighting it off the best as I can. And it don't seem to be working because it don't seem like it's worth it to fight it off. And I'm coming to you for guidance. I'm coming to you to vent. I'm coming to you for therapy. And I don't think you're giving it to me. Even though you are giving it to me, I just don't see it. So I'm coming to my notebook for therapy. And as my notebook, I don't think you hear me. So it may be time to get this divorce from you, and that's what the record is about.
Man. Then Homegrown off the Retropolitan album. That's one of my favorites because that one really hits home for me because I drive through the neighborhood and you get to the outskirts and there's literally a subdivision on the outskirts of Longridge. I'm like, bro,
I saw it last time I was there on 176 and all that. I saw it. Yeah.
I'm like, bro, what the hell is going on, man? This ain't the Longridge I remember.
I saw it right before you get to Cooper Store Road. I saw the one right there. I know the one you're talking about. Absolutely. Right over there by that house, by that lady house, and that house has easily been there since slavery. That one house had to have been there since slavery. Be like, that house been there forever. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Homegrown. Yeah, you nailed it. I just wanted to talk about, I talk about my neighborhood and gentrification a lot. It comes up in my music a lot because it is very near and dear to my heart. And with that record, it really was just like I'm America's Worst Nightmare, which was the flip on the J joint, the J freestyle. I'm America's Worst Nightmare. I'm young, black, and too intelligent to be scared, and it's kind of like this, having this conversation with the powers that be that don't look like us. And it's like, yo, listen, B, like, I'm telling you this, you're not going to get me. You're not going to one up on me and son me. Like, I'm telling you who I am. I know what your plans are. I know what you're doing. I know what you're about. I know what your end game is. And I'm here to step in front of all that. I'm here to step in front of all that and stand for mine. So if you think you're going to be able to slide one by me, you might have to pick somebody else on the other side of the street. It's not going to be me. And that's why it starts with that Fred Hampton joint and all that, because it's that same theory and that same motive and that same way of thinking that I was raised on. So if you ain't going to stand up for nothing, let me know what you're willing to fight for. Like, if you're not willing to fight for nothing, then what are we doing? And that's why I started it with that little sound bite, and then we just roll right into it. And it gets into even knowing certain elements of my, like I talk about my little brother who, who's in the pen a lot, who goes back and forth to the pen. And it's like, yo, I'm not sitting here saying I'm better than anybody. Like, we all got the same things going on. I'm saying I'm smart enough to know the end game of how all this works. I'm smart enough to know that this thing has even affected people in my circle, like my brother, like my best, whatever. And I know where this thing is and where it could go, and I'm ready. It's literally standing on the front lines, and that's what that record is.
Man, and I caught that Easter egg in that joint regarding you and your brother when you
Mhm.
said no one is still Bill and Russell when it comes to us. Was that a nod to Cosby?
Absolutely. Fat Albert, baby.
Yes.
Best cartoon
Good
ever.
job, Brain.
Absolutely. Cause I always felt like I always said that when we was, little kids. Me and my little brother was Bill and Russell, before my parents had my other brother. So now it's three of us. But before he was born, it was just me and Steph. And it was, we was Bill and Russell, even to the complexion. Like Steph is light skinned like Russell, you know what I mean? So he was coming down every summer to St. James A&E, to the churches, to Vacation Bible School. He was 4 years old. He was a little guy, So we was Bill and Russell, and it was always when I walked out the door, take your brother, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like always. I was like, oh man, take your brother, come on, man, come on, So, I'm what, 12, he's 5, take your brother, you know what I mean? So I want to do 12-year-old activities, which are cosplaying as 20-year-old activities when they're not. And I got my 5-year-old brother who loves Barney, So take your brother, take him, take him. You know what I mean? So that was that. No one is still Bill and Russell when it come to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that song really hit home.
Like, I still got to look out for
Yeah.
you no matter what. Now we grown, right? I'm 42, you 35. I still got to look out for you. It's still Bill and Russell. Russell, come on. Mama wants you to take a bath. Like, just like out of an
Yep.
episode. You know what I mean? Like, I still got to look out for you.
Man, and that song hits close to home for me because every now and then I'll get text messages on my phone saying this is so and so, we're interested in buying your property. I'm like, this shit ain't for sale.
Yo. Right, same here. Same here. I'm like, yo, how does this even work? So absolutely, man. We all are going through this thing in this country together, and we're seeing the
Yeah.
tide in real time. It's not something it's not something we have to look back on. It's not something we have the liberty of trying to predict where it hasn't happened to us yet. It is happening in real
Yeah.
time.
And my absolute favorite song of yours is
Mm.
the lead off to In Celebration of Us, Everybody's Fine. I love
Oh
that
yeah.
shit, man. So
Thank you,
what
man.
what went on in you? First of all, how long did it take you to write that? Because that shit is mind blowing.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. That was a whole session. I dedicated a whole session to that record. And a session is usually, 4 or 5 hours. I dedicated a whole session to that record because what I wanted to do when I heard the beat, again, I was just like, yo, okay, I know where I want to go. I want to have this skit at the beginning where it's like my pops and his best friend, who's my godfather, having a conversation about me being born. And that's what that is, right? Like, I got two of my homies from around the way to play my pops and his best friend, one of his best friends, who's my godfather. And I wanted them to, act out this scene. So I wrote a whole script. Like, I wrote the script, Pops, Craig, and I wrote the whole thing out. All right, you got my pops, you got Craig, y'all go in a booth together, do it. So I kind of coached them through the whole thing because again, I wrote this album while my son was in the womb. So now I'm thinking about what it was like with my pops when I was in the womb. You know what I'm saying? So it's just that whole full circle thing. So, when I wrote the record, I said I just want to go off. I don't even know when I want to stop. It could be 60 bars, 100 bars, I don't know. And then when I did the record, I recorded it. And after I recorded it, I listened back to it in real time and the idea hit me on the spot. And I told my man Captive, the engineer, I said, yo, do me a favor. Loop the beat up some more and mute the drums and just have the sample. Doom, doom, doo, doo, doo. And I'm going to go back in the booth. And he was like, all right. He didn't know what I was going to do. And I spit the whole record again with no drums as a spoken word piece, in real time. Like, that wasn't something I foresaw or predicted. I was like, yo, I'm gonna rock this joint, boom, boom, boom. I'm kicking it, I'm rhyming, everything is good, it's done. And I'm listening back on the couch. And I said, yo, I'm going back in. it just it hit me. It was like, yo, do it again. Because what I wanted to emphasize was everything I'm saying on this record is so important and it's coming at you so fast. Because even though it's a slower beat, it's doubles and triples and there's no breaks in between the doubles and triples, and we just rolling, and I'm telling you so much. I gotta tell you again. I gotta tell you again. It's like I have to repeat myself. It's like your parent when they repeat themselves. I got to repeat myself the entire ride. I got to repeat myself on this because I know you didn't get it. And even if you did get it, I want you to know how serious I am about what I'm saying. Just like your parents, when they were, you hear me, but and they repeat themselves to you when they're getting on you. I was like, I got to repeat myself because I want them to know I'm serious with this. What I'm saying is for real. Celebratory moments of go a bottle in the air. Like this is, I'm not playing. Like we have some things we need to talk
Yeah,
about. So, oh, you thought I was playing? Hear me again. You know what I mean? And that's what it meant.
I love that. That oh man.
Thank you, brother.
Seriously, man,
Thank you.
it's been so dope just watching your art, just watching you progress with your art form, man. Seriously.
Thank you. Thank you, man. Yeah, it's been an honor and a privilege, man, to be able to contribute to something that we grew up on, something that is literally all I know. You know, I mean, I was born in a world where hip hop already existed. It's not like our parents where we saw it, you know, like I came out the womb, hip hop was playing on the radio, you know. So but it was the early stages. It wasn't the take it for granted stages. It was the cherish it and shine it as much as you can and walk with your feet balled up so you don't get a crease in your sneakers. It was that treatment of hip hop. It was treating hip hop like that, you know, because it was so young, fresh, and new. So yeah, I'm honored to have been able to contribute. I'm honored to have been able to be a part of this, put my name in the books. You know, people call me one of the greatest. People call me top 10, top 5. Some people have me as their absolute favorite, the best ever, whatever, whatever. And I'm honored by that because my favorites are Jay and Nas and Big and The Genius and Jadakiss and Black Thought and Black Star and Mace and The Lox. Like those are my favorites. So like, you know, I'm honored to be people's favorites and people's goats. People have my name tattooed on them. People have my face tattooed on them. People have my lyrics tattooed on them. I've seen it. Like I've gone overseas and seen murals on whole sides of a building of my face and my lyrics. And
Wow.
the same kid who was coming to Longridge every summer, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Who would have knew, you know? So it's real, you know, and I love it. I'm honored by it. And there's more to go. I'm working on an album right now. Keep me company. You know, I'm trying to finish it now and get it out before the end of the year. I want to get it around the holidays and give something to people for the winter. It's a very winter album. You know, when I was making it, I was thinking a lot about Hell on Earth, Mobb Deep,
Mm.
and this isn't that. I'm not making a Mobb Deep album, but I was very enamored with remembering how much of a winter album that is. Like I think it's the best winter album ever. If you think of the category winter album, an album that fits the mode of the winter. When you listen to Hell on Earth, that's not a summer
No.
record. You know what I mean? Like
No.
you don't want to hear it's incredible. That's not something you play at the barbecue and the block parties. You know, you can go to the Infamous for more of that. You know, Hell on Earth is the winter. It's cold out, gloves, Tim's, you know what I mean? North Face. Back in the day, it was a bear jacket, or you know what I mean, or Columbia. You know, that's a winter album, man. The beats, do 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 do. That's man. I was listening to that album in December, this past December, and I was like, yo, this is the best winter album ever. So, long story short, dropping it around that season, my creative process is very much channeled in that. Now, I do feel like it's an album that you'll be able to play beyond the winter, but I feel like it's going to be a great winter album. I feel like it's like, you know what I mean? Like winter food and all that, like, you know, certain food in the winter and zip up tight and layer up. The album already feels kind of like that. Conceptually, production, definitely production wise, it's very much on that accord. So I'm super excited about it, man. I'm trying to finish it. You know, I'm trying to be finished within the next 3 weeks, hopefully, and you know, and get it out to y'all before the year's over.
Man, I'm looking forward to that one. For real.
Yeah, thank you, man. And the temperature drop. You know what I mean? The temperature drop real good. You driving, you know, you go outside, turn the car on, let it heat up for 10 minutes before you get in. and then you get in the car and throw Keep Me Company on, and it feels like outside, you know?
Man, I'm looking forward to that for sure. So now let's
Yeah.
get into how did you get into ghostwriting?
Oh man, that was through my man Ill Mind, who I've spoke about a couple times on here. You know, he was working with some people production wise, because you know he's a producer, one of the best, and he was working with some people who needed help. They needed some rhymes, you know. And when he came back to New York, we lived a block and a half away from each other in the sty. So he was like, "Yo, man," we came back home. He came to the crib and was like, "Yo, man." Yo, who I was with, yo, they need writers, man. I'm going back out there in a month. You got to come with me. And I was like, done deal. So if it wasn't for him, I would not be in the ghostwriting world. So I always give that up to him and take my hat off to him because he didn't have to do that. And he didn't only do it, he forced it. He was like, you got to come with me. You know what I mean? And I was like, yeah, I'm on the bird with you, man. I'm on the next thing smoking. And we made it happen, you know, and we went in the studio together. He was making beats. I was writing in real time. So and so person came in and we pressed play. Yo, who that? Who that? Yo, that's him pointing to me. Yo, that's you? Yeah. Yo, what's up? Yo, give me your number. Yo, when you leaving? Yo, you got more? And that was it. It just turned into word spreading around.
Wow.
Now you getting calls and emails from different people and getting invited to different studios and getting calls about so and so need records and such need records and you just rocking.
And so what's the process like with ghostwriting?
So yeah, so for me, it's very personal in the sense of it's tailor made. If you came to me and said you wanted a record, I'm almost going to interview you first. You know, what are you about? What are you into? Where are you from? What's your background? What are you dealing with right now? What do you want to talk about? What's some hidden little things about you that only people close to you know? As far as, you know, maybe a nickname or maybe where you went to school or, you know, little things. I'm almost going to interview you the first time if I don't know enough about you already just from being a fan, and then I'm right, and I want it to sound like you wrote it. You know, I don't want it. I don't want people to hear it and be like, "Oh, I could tell Sky wrote that." You know, I hear songs all the time, and I know who wrote it. I'm like, "Oh, so and so wrote that. Oh, such and such wrote that." I could hear it. You can't tell when when I write stuff, which is the beauty. You know, it's not go to the mall and there's 20 suits on a rack and just grab one. This is come to a tailor shop, get fitted, come back in 2 3 days and the joint is tailor fit only for you. You know what I mean? Like that's my goal as a ghostwriter.
Man, that's so dope that you take yourself out of the equation and you basically during this interview you basically become this person
Have
as
to, have
much as you
to,
possibly can. So
have to.
there's no fingerprints or no traces of your DNA on the
Yeah,
record.
listen, you listen, you coming to me, you know, for a certain service. You're not coming to me for a Skyzoo record. You coming to me for a such and such record, and you just want me to help you put it together, or you want me to put the whole thing together for you, or whatever it is. But you're not coming to me to sound like me. You come to me to sound like a better version of you. So I'm gonna do that. Now we'll throw a double in there. I'll throw one double entendre or something in there, or I'll throw one line where heads will be, whoa. Yo, I never heard them rhyme. That was crazy. That line was crazy. That's kind of my little stamp. You know what I mean? I'll give you one. I'll give you one of those doubles. I'll give you one of those. As soon as the drum rolls, I'm picturing unload. I'll give you one of those, you know what I mean? And then you're like, oh, I never heard so and so rhyme like that. They got off on this. What they was on that day. There it is.
I
You know what
love
I
it.
mean?
It's like a little nod and a wink to the audience.
Yeah, little wink, you
I
know.
love it. So now your culinary skills, man. I see you be chefing it up, man. You got the ATL
Yeah,
Burger Bistro. So how
yeah, yeah.
where did your love for cooking stem from?
I think subconsciously coming down there to Longridge, being with my grandmoms and my aunt and my older aunts, my great aunts, as you would say, and all that. But really, in the crib, you know, my moms and my stepmoms. My stepmoms is a beast in the kitchen, man. Like she's incredible. And growing up around that, but it didn't hit me till later. You know, I was in my late 20s and could barely boil water. You know what I mean? I could make like two things. So I got nice late. You know, it's like sometimes you have a player that get nice when they 30. It's like, Dad, you got drafted at 19, but you got nice at 30. It's one of those. Like with the cooking, I got nice later. I just was messing around, cooking a little bit, then a little more, then a little more, and watching videos and doing my own thing, and then ignoring videos and really doing my own thing, and then it became a passion. I always would see people and hear people say, yo, cooking is a passion. I love to cook. And I never understood that as a kid or in my 20s. I didn't understand it. It was like, I get it, but you love to cook. It's a passion. Like you love to sit there and put this together and wait and sweat, hot stoves and sweating and, working yourself to the bone. But once you really start it, it gets real. You're like, wow, I really love this. So then you start thinking, yo, what can I do? What can I do next? Or you see something, you be like, that's cool. I could freak that though. If I take that and I do this, I could freak that. And then the real high comes when the people love it. The real high comes when you serving people, whether it's your family, whether friends, you having a family gathering, a cookout, whatever. The real high comes when people are like, yo, that was incredible. Yo, that was sick. Yo, who made that? That's the high.
Yes.
Like that's the rock. That's the rock in the pipe. Like that's the high. That's when you like, yeah, I gotta make something else tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like that's the high. And yeah, it's something where over the past like 5 years, I've gotten really, really, really crazy with it to the point now, people come to the crib and they want me to cater. If I say we throwing something at the crib, we throwing a barbecue, there's 50, 60 people here, 100 people. Like they come in, they like, Sky, you cooking, right? You cooking, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like my wife's friends will be like, yo, he's cooking, right? Like, yeah, we gonna come. Yo, he's cooking. Like you doing girls' night, he's cooking. You know what I mean? So it's cool, man, and it becomes a high. It becomes a good addiction.
So what was that first dish that you cooked and after tasting and you were like, man, I did that shit?
Um, Pasta's the easiest thing to make. Spaghetti and stuff like that. But you can make some cool spaghetti or you can make something amazing with it. But that's a hard dish to mess up. But starting with pasta, my French toast was always crazy. I think that was the first thing where I was like, wow, I really know what I'm doing with that. For a while I was trying to master grits. I mastered it. For a while I was like, yo, man, like you go to a restaurant, you go to certain soul restaurants, and it's amazing. You like, yo, what did they do? They ain't gonna tell you, you know what I mean? So you kind of gotta just trial and error in the kitchen. Years ago I mastered that, so that was cool. Yeah, and then it just flew from there, man. It just flew, and now it's like, bring it on. Like, what we doing? So now I be, yo, we gotta have a little cook off. Yo, I ain't messing with you. It be guys, girls. I ain't messing with you, man. Come on, stop. I ain't messing with you, man. Get out of here. You a cheat code. So it's cool. It's cool.
Man,
And my grandmas would be very surprised and very proud if she could see it.
yeah, man, and you really hit home with because I had the same problem with grits myself. It took me a hot minute to learn how to master cooking grits.
Yo, it's such a delicate balance, man. It's such for something that seems so simple. It's such a delicate balance, man. And it took a lot of trial and error, adding stuff, taking stuff out. Ooh, maybe they added this. Maybe they put some stuff in there that you would never think isn't, all that type of stuff. And then, all right, cool. And now it's like, oh, I got it, I got it, I got it.
Yeah,
And now no turning back.
and now, I mean, we can't have a Skyzoo episode and not talk about the New York Knicks. So,
Yeah,
man,
yeah, you see it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you when did your love for the Knicks start?
Birth, man. Like since my pops, it always passes down in the crib. My pops, being a Knick fan, a Giant fan, a Yankee fan, those are my teams, by default. But I'm diehard Knicks. Like I'm a Giants fan. The Giants lose, I'm like, "Ah, man, Giants playing around every year, man. Yankees, I'm like, oh, Yankees playing around. The Knicks, I go into a depression. Don't talk to me. Don't call me. You might get a bad version of me. I might have to apologize to you later. Like, don't talk to me if we lose a game, we lose a series and we going home for the season. Yo, don't talk to leave me alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, I'm in the crib screaming. I'm losing my voice. If I'm throwing stuff, if they having a bad night, I'm going bananas, screaming at the bar. And my wife is like, "You got to go to the bar tonight and watch that game because you keeping me and Miles up." Like literally, like, oh, the last playoffs, I was at the sports bar every night for those games because the first night of the playoffs, I'm in here losing it, and she's calling me, texting me from upstate. You waking up the baby? You waking up Miles? And I'm like, you'll tell him come downstairs. You know what I mean? Like, so, the rest of the game, she said, you gotta go to the sports bar. You can't be in here tonight with that. I'm like, all right, you know what I mean? And I meet my mans at the spot and we have a couple hennies, a couple beers, wings, and I'm screaming at the TV. I'm arguing with Sixers fans, and you know what I mean? Like, I'm that guy, man. And I love it. I love it, love it, love it, man. And Knicks is my bread and butter. I love it, man. It's my heart. It's like, Cowboys fans, but it's the Knicks, man. That's it.
Man, so what were some of your favorite Knicks moments?
Oh man. Starks, the dunk, of course. LJ, the 4 point. Allen Houston, of course. All the Pat memories and, everything he did, him standing on the table and throwing his arms up and, all that. But then the Melo years, man, and me, I know Melo personally, like that's the homie. So I was at a lot of those games. I would be on the floor. Like I would get floor seats. Shout out to my man Bay Frazier. We would be on the floor. He'd call me, yo, pull up, I'll buy. And literally I'm tripping Kylo Quinn and Carl Anthony Towns because my foot's sticking out. You know what I mean? Like I'm on the floor, blessed, $5,000 ticket stub. So the Mellow years, man, because just seeing him work was just magic. Whether it was in person, whether it was at the crib, finally having somebody. You got your Bronze and you got your D Wades and you got your KDs. For us to finally have somebody since Pat, and much love to Stephon Marbury. I don't think he got a fair shake in New York. I think his legacy is not looked at the right way when it comes to his Knicks tenure. But it was finally having somebody, man, and somebody who was in the same age range. He 2 years younger than me, in the same age range. And we wound up becoming homies and having the same people. So now that's my man. And yo, it was like we got somebody, man. We got one. We got a Hall of
Yeah.
Famer. We got a top 50. Literally, we got a top 50 with us right now. Wartime. What up? Who won it? Like everybody got their tools, got their weapons. We in here with a weapon. What's up? Like that's how it felt. So the mellow years, man. The great times. Of course, the rough times. Was obviously rough, but I don't put any of that on him because I know what he was dealing with, and I know what he was dealing with that people don't know just from being his homie. And I'm only talking about sports, you know what I mean? Like just the roster that was put with him and the way, and he's talked about it now on his podcast, but like the roster that was given to him and, the media and the way they treated him versus how they treated other people who was doing less. I know what he was dealing with, and I know how bad he wanted to win in New York, and how every night he put all that on his shoulders. Every night, man. We used to talk about it. We used to all hang out and bug out, and we would talk about it after the games. And he was like, yo, it's just how I'm built, bro. You know what I mean? It's just how I'm built. I ain't gonna blame nobody else, and I'm not gonna blame nobody else publicly. Definitely not gonna do
Yeah.
that. Listen, I'm the face, I'm the highest paid, I'm the guy, I'm the ticket stub, I'm the jersey being sold every night. Yo, I'm gonna put this on my shoulders, man. I'm a ride, I'm a ride. It is what it is, man. And the mellow years was great, for the resiliency of who we are as New Yorkers, even when it was rough, and right now, I mean, right now, baby, it's our time,
Yeah.
baby. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear nothing about nobody. It's our time right now. You know what I mean?
Man, it's always enjoyable when the Knicks are good, man. Seriously.
Yeah, the league is better. The league is better when the city is on tilt, baby. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the league is better, So, yeah.
And another thing I wanted to discuss that I wasn't privy to, I didn't realize how much of a Devin the Dude fan you are.
Oh, man, Devin is the guy, man. Devin is the guy, man. Like, storyteller A1. One of the best storytellers in hip hop history. I don't know if we'll ever get another Devin the Dude. You got a lot of weed rappers, a lot of swag rappers and all that, and they great. But the balance that Devin has of literally telling a story every single time, and not just a story like I'm a storyteller, so like I'm a storytelling all over my music, but a lot of it is direct, and a lot of it is more vague. A lot of it is me just talking about what's going on in a story format. Devin, every song is, I woke up this morning, I went and did this, I went out to the store, such and such hat. It's incredible, man. It's Slick Rick. It's incredible. And to make it funny, to make it realistic, to humble himself so much. You never hear him talking about, I got all this money and jewelry and blah 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 blah. And it's just him talking about his life. Me and my man went to the joint. We was out there till 2 in the morning, and he's trying to get these girls to come home. One of them did, one of them fronted. She called her other home girl, you know what I mean? Or I ran into this girl I went to school with and she was fat, and I used to want to be with her in school. Now I feel like I'm obligated just for my 15-year-old self to finish that dream. Like he's so vulnerable and he humbles himself so much, and it's always in a comedic way, man. And of course the weed and all that and the beats. Devin is top notch, man. I think Devin's one of the greatest, without a
Yeah.
doubt. Devin's one of the greatest.
See what I can pull. That's my favorite joint, man.
Yeah, yeah. See what I can pull, man. Listen, like I wasn't gonna come, but now I did. I'm glad I came. The club was crunk. That woo.
Man,
Yeah, Devin. Devin is the guy, man. So meeting him, I love giving people their flowers and appreciation, and meeting him um was like a dream come true. Like I met him. It was New Year's Eve. He did a show down here in Atlanta,
tight.
and I was like, oh, I'm going. And I went dolo. I was like, I'm going. You know what I mean? My Wiz don't know Devin. She was like, all right, have fun, enjoy. I was like, I'm going. I'm going. New Year's Eve, Devin. You know what I mean? So, you know, clock strikes, comes down. We hit one. Sun came out, doing it, and I was like, woo, there go Devin. You know what I mean? And I'm in there. I'm nicked out, Nick varsity jersey on, all that, going word for word with the Houston raps. You know what I mean? And they looking at me like, damn, you know what I mean? And there was people there who knew me. So it was like, yo, Skyzoo, man, you up on Devin, man? I'm like, I love Devin. I met him afterwards. And, he gave me his number. He was like, yo, man, take my number, man. Let's build. I was like, word up. So, took the number and all that. And I was like, yeah, maybe one day down the line, if a record makes sense, holla at Devin. You never know. But, he showed dumb love. He was, yeah, oh, man, I would love that. But, we was vibing and I was doing all this in front of him. And he was like, man, take my number, man. Take my number. Let's keep up, man. Like, yeah, I rock with you, man. You good people. So I was like, yeah, word up. So, word.
Dope. So now we're gonna. Normally, I do a 5-question segment to end the show, but it's gonna be like an extended version because one of my homies from DC, your birthday twin, he's a classy TKO from DC. He
Okay.
added some questions to the 5-question segment. So first and last question are the same question I ask every guest I have on here, and normally questions 2 through 4 are completely random, but it's going to be a little more than 2 through 4. So the question number 1: what was Skyzoo's go-to school lunch items?
Oh, man, school lunch. First of all, New York school lunch is horrible. Horrible. Yo, I was like 9. I actually went to school in Moscona for 2 months. I went to Whitesville.
Really?
I went to Whitesville, yeah, for 2 months. So my parents was talking about me staying in South Carolina after the summer because Brooklyn was wild, was getting a little hectic, so more hectic than normal. So there was conversations about me, maybe living in South Carolina for the rest of my years. I was 9 years old. So the process started. I stayed for 2 months, and then for whatever reason, I wound up going back to New York. So I only lived in Moscona for 2 months outside of the summer. But yeah, I was 9, and I went to Whitesville. And I remember being like, yo, this school lunch is great. You know what I mean? Like, this is amazing. Like, they had mashed potatoes and fried chicken and gravy. Like, yo, you know what we get in New York? Like, New York school lunch is horrible, B. But I don't know if it changed. I ain't been in school in, 20 plus years. But, like, man, school lunch in New York is awful. But I say all that to say, definitely butter crunch cookies. Chicken cutlet sandwich was always all right. That was like a fried chicken cutlet sandwich. That was always all right. Burger was terrible. The pizza was whack, but people be liking the pizza when they look back, like, oh man, school lunch pizza. The pizza was trash, man. It was, oh god, just thinking about all this was so bad. Um, the fried chicken was decent for some weird reason. The fried chicken was decent. It was like, it was kind of greasy, and it was decent. It was like very breaded. It was decent. That was all right. French fries was cool. It was so bad though. Then you think about, oh god, it was terrible. But yeah, I think the chicken cutlet sandwich was all right. Butter crunch cookies without a doubt. Like Big said in Sky's the Limit. That's what he's talking about. He's like the milks was chocolate, the cookies butter crunch, like the butter crunch. And the crazy thing is they're only in New York. Like you can get them on Amazon, but I don't. You may not know about them. If not, I'm putting you on. You go on Amazon and put in Linden's cookies, and there's chocolate, fudge chocolate, there's chocolate chip, fudge chocolate, raisin, and butter crunch. And they used to sell all those, and they still sell them in the corner store. But at school, you would have them at the school store for like $1 or 50 cents or whatever. And they would bring out all the flavors, but you only got butter crunch on Fridays because butter crunch is the one. Like that's the top cookie. And you can order them now on Amazon. It's like a yellow and blue bag, and butter crunch cookies without a doubt. So that's what a lot of people. I was having this conversation with my man. He from Kentucky, and we was talking about it, and he was like, "That's what that meant." He's like, "I never knew what Biggie meant when he said that." It's like, yeah, butter crunch cookies because they only in New York, you know. But that was the wave. Like Fridays, you could just live off those. Like, yo, let me get 3 packs of those and a chocolate milk, and I'm going outside. Y'all can keep that burger. You know what I mean? Like. Yeah, it's awful, man. It should be arrested for that stuff, man. It's terrible, man. Like y'all had to work. That's why I brought up being at Whitesville for 2 months, because y'all had to work, man. Like I was blown away. I was like, wow, who grandmas is in the back? You know what I mean? Like I was 9 years old, blown away.
Oh, that's funny. Next question. This from TKO. Being a sneakerhead largely on the Nike side, did you feel like somewhat of a traitor when you first tried on a pair of NMDs and knew it was time for a change?
Nah, cause they were so perfect, man. I love them NMDs, man. Oh my gosh, you talk about walking on a
Yeah.
cloud, man. Like, wow, I love them, man. I mean, I'm still heavy Nike, but I keep 2 or 3 pairs of NMDs in the crib because they're just great, especially when you're on tour. Like when you're on tour, you gotta have your fly pair that you keep fly and clean for every night, and then you got to have what we call a kick around pair, where like you on a tour bus, you going city to city, you doing sound check, you got on sweatsuit, with some kick arounds, you know what I mean? And NMDs are great for that. You might be on the tour bus ripping and running at gas stations, running around, and just on tour, and it's just very kind of hectic travel thing. You want to be as comfortable as possible. And it's a sweatsuit and a pair of NMDs all the time. So I love NMDs, man.
Word. That you not lying, man. Them shoes super comfortable, man.
Yeah, they it, man. I don't know what they did, but they it. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I'm good. Like, especially when you get older, like, growing up, I remember like in 2012, when the foam wave went crazy. And I had every foam posit, royal blue, stealth black, electric blue, pine green, eggplant. What else? May have been one or two. I had a ton of. I didn't do the pink. I wasn't doing that. I didn't do pink. I missed the pearls. I really wanted the pearls, but I didn't get the pearls. Missed out on those. But all the colors I just named, man. And I look back now because they bringing them back, and I'm like, listen, I'm not mad at nobody rocking. There's no way in the world. No way in the world. They too uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And like what? Like no way in the world, B. They too uncomfortable. And I'm like, how did we do that? And I had those on every day in 2012, a different color every day, every outfit. I was foaming it. You know what I mean? And I'm like, how did we do that, man? So nah, I'm good with the NMD wave.
Word. Next question. Crooklyn Dodgers or Return of the Crooklyn Dodgers?
Return because of that beat, man. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, return without a doubt because of that beat, man. That beat is
Yeah.
phenomenal. They're both sick beats, but that remix, man, that will return. Oh my gosh, man, that beat, walk all over that.
What's your favorite verse on that on Return?
Hmm, I don't know. I kind of love them all equally, man. Yeah, it's both versions, man. Both records are so incredible. Both records are so incredible, but that return, man, that beat,
Yeah,
woo,
it's undeniable.
that is a
Yeah.
smoker.
Question from TKO. What was your easiest project to make?
Hmm. Easiest. Wow. Never been asked that. I flew through Theo versus JJ pretty fast. I flew through that really fast. That was a last minute project because that was when the blog era was still jumping, and the rollout was always, if you got an album come out, drop a mixtape like 3 months before. So and Rick Ross was heavy on that, heavy. 50 started that. Like, make no mistake, 50 has started that, and 50 and the Dipset. That all came from '01, '02, '03, and then it kind of died down. And then in the blog era, Ross kind of brought that back. Jeezy and them was doing it, of course, but it died down. And then in the early 2010s, Ross kind of brought that whole vibe back. And I remember being like, yeah, I got to drop a tape before this album. So the album was A Dream Deferred, October 2012. So I was like, yeah, I got to drop a tape before that. And Theo vs. JJ came out, I think, August. So it was a couple months before. I flew through that pretty quick. I would say if we talking easy, doesn't compromise the talent, doesn't compromise the effort. Easy, I might say Theo versus JJ. That happened really fast. That Easy Truth happened fast. Easy Truth was 9 days. Easy Truth happened fast. Retropolitan was 11 days, so that was fast. But yeah, I would say Theo versus JJ might have been the easiest. I was just kind of blowing through records. Great Debater, man. Great Debater was just a lot of fun. I did that project in a I did that project in a month. I did that album, that mixtape in a month. And yo, I was on a wave where I was writing so fast during that project. Like during the Great Debater, I was writing speed racing. It only took 30 days because I wasn't in the booth every day. Like I'd be in the lab a couple days, then I wouldn't be there a couple days. It might have took friggin' 12 days if that, you know what I mean? Like I was writing so fast, you know what I mean? It was really, really a thing. It was flying through records, so that was smooth too.
All right. Next question. What's your guilty pleasure television show?
Oh man, that's a good one. Hmm. I think there's a couple, man. I want to give you a good one. I might need a second to think about that because it's an ill question. I think I want to. I mean, Seinfeld's not a guilty pleasure show. That's just an incredible show. I love Seinfeld. So I'm not gonna say that. Uh, I don't. I mean, wow. Hold on. I want to get that. Hold on. Early Family Matters. But that's not a guilty pleasure though, because that's a classic. Yeah, that's a hard question, man. That's a hard question. You know what? Randomly now, Sex in the City.
Wow.
It's just like mad random.
Yeah.
Like I think it's the idea of being older now and looking at relationships and looking at what we as young adults, because that show, they supposed to be in their 30s and they seem so old, right? But when you look back, you're like 31, 32, that's nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when you 40, 40 plus, you're like, man, that's nothing. Like you're a kid, even though 30 is not a kid, but you look at it like that. So I think looking back on it, seeing how the women and the men, the male counterparts in the show were handling the interactions and the dynamics of one another, it's fascinating. So I would say Sex in the City right now. Like it be coming on randomly. I don't look for it, but it be coming on and I watch it. Like if it's on when I'm ironing clothes, I definitely turn the volume up. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, oh, let me see what Carrie and them doing. And you think about like the dynamics of the relationships, men and women, Mars and Venus and all that, and you like, yeah, she was kind of bugging there. Oh, yo, she wasn't bugging at all there. She was right about that. Like that didn't go the way it should. Like it's very interesting. So yeah, I would say Sex in the
All
City.
right. Next question, courtesy of TKO. With the large jazz influence, do you ever worry about losing fans with abstract concepts that lend heavily on jazz?
No, not at all. I think if you're a Skyzoo fan, you know what this party is about at this point, right? You go to a certain party, you go to a certain club, you know what it is. Like, you know what it is at this point. I'm not Gunna or Lil Baby or one of them, and that's not a shot at all, but I'm not them doing that type of music and then turning around and throwing some Miles Davis in there. Like, they'd be like, yo, what the hell? Like, you know what I mean? I'm not that. So it makes sense for me to be on the jazz wave. The type of music I make, the type of beats I write to, the producers I use, the subject matter that I speak on, having a jazz influence totally makes sense. If I'm gonna do all this musical version of Spike Lee music, how can it not be jazzy at times, along with these dirty corner store drums? So yeah, I'm not worried about that at all.
All right. Then his last question. When are we getting a K Cola duet project? Y'all's chemistry is perfect.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
He said also need some Fonte
Yeah,
collabs.
yeah. Shout out to my brother Tay, man. Yeah, for sure. I mean, as far as Cola, we talked about that years ago. Like, yo, we should just do a whole joint. You know, we talked about that years ago. Cola has not been making as much music lately because she actually has a hair care line that has been booming, and it literally made her a millionaire.
No
So,
shit. Wow. Okay.
yeah, if you go to her page, you'll see it all over it. She has a hair care line she started about 6, 7 years ago, and it's literally made her a millionaire. So she don't really make music no more, but if I need her, she comes
Yeah.
out. You know what I mean? She'll come outside for me. And the last time we spoke, she brought it up. She was like, yo, we still got to do that joint. And I was like, you still trying to make records? You got money to count. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? But she was like, nah, but for you, nah, I'm with it. Like, we still got to do something. So I was like, we'll figure it out. Me and Raheem Devon are doing a collabo album. You know, we toyed about it on Instagram. Like, we kind of teased it a little bit, but we're going to start that soon. So that's kind of like that, best of both worlds type thing. And Tay, yeah, I mean, Tay is family, so anytime the opportunity presents itself for us to do a record, we definitely will.
Word up. And then the last question. What's the last thing that really
Mhm.
made you laugh?
My son, my son, he's a comedian, man. Like he was like, what happened, man? It was today. We was, my son is 6. My son Miles is 6. So he had like his toys on the steps. And I'm like, man, clean up your toys, man. Somebody gonna trip and fall. And he was like, all right, all right. And I was like, I'm not playing. Clean up your toys. I said, look, somebody gonna trip and fall. So I like pretended to fall to show him what it's like. And then I started to really fall a little bit. And he started laughing. He said, oh, snap. And I was like, yo, leave me alone. And he said, you be all right, you be all right. I was like, because I say that to
Yeah.
him, like, with little kids, we grew up, shake it off. That's how my pops raised you. Shake it off, shake it off. Before you can even start crying, if you feel something, shake it off. You'll be all right. So I say that to him. I'll be like, yo, shake it off, shake it off. And then he won't cry. He man up. And I'll be like, you be all right, you be all right. So when I pretended to fall and then I really fell. And I was like, see what I mean? And he was like, oh, snap, as I was falling. And then he said, you be all right, you be all right, you be all right. I was like, yo, get out of here, man. Go play. And I started laughing, man. And my wife was upstairs. She wasn't even in the same room. She heard it and she bust out laughing. And I was like, yo, the both of y'all could beat it, man. Both of y'all could beat it. So he was like, you be all right, you be all right. So yeah, my son, man. My son's a comedian.
Love it. So if there's anything you want to plug or promote, the floor is yours.
Yeah, man. Keep me company. Keep me company this fall. As soon as we hang up, I'm turning around and I'm right here in my studio getting back to work, man. Keep me company. Um, Almost there, almost done. I'm very excited about it. A lot of people talk that album of the year stuff. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it because the year ain't over yet. Let's talk about it. So I'm excited. And the idea of the album is feeling alone in certain things, and not in a depressed way, not in an emo way. I'm not the emo type at all. In the sense of, we could talk about the kind of music we listen to, the hip hop we grew up on. We could talk about the core values and the morals and the way we was raised. And we may feel alone because we feel like that's not really the agenda anymore. And it's like, damn, man, I'm alone in this. But then you and I can have a conversation and I can realize I'm not alone because you're on the same type of time. You can realize you're not alone because I'm on the same type of time. And I'm like, man, just keep me company, man. Like, I need just, yo, oh, you like that too? Yo, I'm here, man. Yo, we got each other. Keep me company. So that's the idea behind it, and that's why it's called Keep Me Company.
Man, I'm looking forward to that one, man. Sky, thank you so much, bro, for being a guest on here, man. Seriously, I
Oh
really enjoyed
man,
this
it's
combo.
love, man. It's love. It's love. Yeah, this was a good one, man. Like a lot of the questions you asked, I never been asked, and I've done it, 100,000 interviews maybe in my 15+ year career. So, thank you, bro. It's always good for the home team. I don't think I've ever done an interview with a South Carolinian, man. You know what I mean? So, it's always good for the home team. Literally Longridge, literally 843 when it was 803, all that. Like,
Talk
I'm really
about it,
there. You
man.
know what I mean? Like when it was 803 and then it changed to 843, you know what I mean? Like Long Ridge, Kitfield, Berkeley, all that, you know what I mean? Like Berkeley Stags, blue and yellow football, all that. Like come on, for everybody watching, I'm born and raised Brooklyn, New York, but my blood comes from South Carolina and it was just harvest in Brooklyn, you know what I mean? But my blood is down there, man. So I'm just as much one of the as the other in my eyes, and I'm always the Brooklyn guy. Don't get it twisted, but that's my bloodline is right there.
Yes, sir. And thank y'all for listening to Since We Last Spoke. Make sure you like, download, and subscribe. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend. You can find my
Yeah,
YouTube page at Danny Foxworth 843. There you can find all the videos for this podcast, as well as my baseball podcast at the plate with Danny Foxworth, and my my new podcast about candles entitled A Wicked Good Time with Danny Foxworth, and my other new podcast, which is Growing Up Low Country with Liz and Danny. Make sure y'all check all those out. Again,
yeah.
shout out to you, Sky, man. This was an honor.
Thank you, man. Likewise, from us being around each other at 8 years old, you know what I mean, to now doing the things we doing. You looking like the podcast king out here. You know what I mean? You got 8 of them. I'm running around doing what I'm doing. It's just an honor and a privilege for us to be able to do these things. Me coming from where I'm from, you know, you where you from, knowing what them boys is like in Long Ridge, knowing what they like in the sty, things could have went a different way for both of us. So it's beautiful that they didn't and they went the way that they did go. So we here,
We
baby.
here for real. And this has been another episode of Since We Last Spoke. And until next time, y'all be good. Peace.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, man. That was